Dreams do come true. So kids, what's your dream?
What is new? So bright, colorful and new. Sometimes it feels hard, but you don't wanna give up.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
You can see my dream?
Of course, because I too had a dream. Some days I dreamt of becoming a tennis player and some days a cricketer. To make their dreams real tomorrow, you need financial planning today. Choose from a range of child plans from Aegis Federal Life Insurance and help your child dream big.
Hello and welcome to this very special episode of Backstage with Boria with Tejaswin Shankar. Accidental medalist, accidental high jumper, accidental superstar, whatever you want to call him, you can. But the story is of inspiration. The story is of never to give up. The story is, if you pursue a dream, do it with all vigor and it does come true. That's what it is. But first question, Tejaswin, 5 days before the Commonwealth Games, not sure if we are going. Mentally, what that has impact on an athlete, and there you go and you win a medal for India. Just tell me that story. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. First of all, thank you so much for having me and giving me this opportunity. And to answer your question, to begin with, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's really difficult, and a lot of times when athletes are, they're in great shape, they're in great preparation. Even then, they go into competitions with uncertainty of, how's it going to be? How am I going to compete? They have so many expectations of family members, themselves, fellow athletes, coaches, and there's so much going on in your mind, even though nothing's going on, but there's just so much pressure that you put yourself in. So apart from that, just anything we just spend a lot of time trying to get our head cleared and, not really think about all these things and just focus on what our task is at hand and all the preparation that we've done. So the only thing we care about at that point is to execute what we've done, which takes us a long time to, just figure it out. But in my case, on top of that, I had a lot going on in my plate and I had a lot to, worry about and to think about. So to be honest with you, 4 or 5 days before the Commonwealth Games, I wasn't even thinking about the Commonwealth Games. My first thought in my head was, okay, am I even going to get to Birmingham? Because that's step one. If I don't get to Birmingham, then I don't think I'll be able to compete. And it's been a long time. So it just seems like a story when I look back in retrospect. But at that point, I think it's just me and my family who really know what went through my mind and how we were trying to get through that period. And now that it's behind us and, it had a happy ending, it's all good.
So give me a sense, when it wasn't happening, when you were ruled out, and then Sebco and Adil and whatever happened and you went, give me a sense, how difficult was it for you at that point in time? It's extremely important for you to tell me that story.
So it was hard. Like, I didn't know what to do. I would wake up thinking that I was going. Next minute, I'd find out I was not going. So the uncertainty part of it was it took a big toll on my mental health, like you're talking about. And that's, like you correctly mentioned, that's something that we really don't, talk about. It's really stigmatized. Even today, in today's world, yes, we are seeing change. We are seeing awareness about these topics, but it's still something that, we don't really talk about or, actively speak out. So I guess in my situation, I just didn't know what to do. I wasn't hungry. I was force feeding myself. I didn't know what to eat. Good example is on the 25th. So I think the Commonwealth Games were about to start on the 28th. So on the 25th, it was my grandmother's 83rd or 84th birthday. It was her 84th birthday. My aunt came over to our house, and usually, we're a very small family. So on occasions, we try to, get together and have a good time. So my aunt came into our house, and usually on such occasions everybody is happy, we are so happy that we're all together. But on that day she actually saw me and she's like, what's son, whatever's happening with you, I don't know what's happening, I don't know how to console you or anything, but I really feel that if you need something, I'm there for you. And the way she said that, I just felt really touched, because even I wasn't sure what I was going through at that time. I was just sitting there sulking in a corner. I didn't really know what I was expecting. I had a dream, I had a goal, I had prepared for that since the beginning of the year. There was a target for me that I was, looking forward to, and then suddenly for it to not happen. Somewhere down the line, maybe, I don't know who's responsible. Maybe I was responsible, somebody else was responsible, but whatever happened, it just took a big toll on my mental health, and I just wasn't really sure what was going on. So if you ask me to pinpoint one thing, I just can't, because there were so many emotions going on in my head. I just really don't know what I can say at that.
And then the medal happens. It's this incredible story from despair to ecstasy. I mean, incredible story. So tell me now about the competition. How did you get rid of the mental demons and do that?
Even the competition, if I tell you that, I went to the stadium and I forgot everything, and the only goal that I had was to win a medal for the country, I think that was the biggest lie that I'd be selling you. So I'm not going to say that. The one thing that I want to say is, till the time I took my first jump, there were so many thoughts going on in my head. I was like, okay, this is the opportunity that I was, dying for, to get this opportunity. And today I have this opportunity. What if I fail? What happens if this goes wrong? What happens if I hit the bar on my first attempt? What happens if there's just so many things that go on in your head? And once I got into the village, I was really happy, because everybody was, the teammates and everybody there was really good atmosphere going on. But somewhere down the line in my head, I was like, do I even belong here? 3 days before, I wasn't even supposed to board the flight for Birmingham. Am I going to contribute? Am I going to add to the medal? Medal tally was not even on my head. I just wanted to make sure that I was there and I could put on a good show. That was my first concern. After that, maybe, I won the medal. That was really good for me. But at that point, I didn't have any thoughts of winning a medal. The only thought that I had was, okay, Tejaswin, I hope you don't choke here. You have this opportunity. You better not choke. That was the only thing that was going on in my head. And as things started going, as the competition started progressing, usually you think about, strategies and tactics and how to maximize your performance. The only thought that was going on in my head was, okay, I have to make this bar. If I don't make this bar, there's going to be so many questions that I have to answer, which I don't. So, okay, let's do my best to make this bar. I'd just run, jump, and I'd see that it's clear as I go, okay, one bar out of the way, let's go on to the next one. So this was probably one of the first competitions where I didn't think at all. I just relied on whatever practice I'd done, and I had no clue what I was doing. And when I looked back, I saw that, I made that 222 bar, which ended up, was good enough for bronze on that day. So that's the only memory that I have. It's not about the competition, but the moment I jumped 222 and I realized that, because as you remember, there were 4 guys at that time who had cleared the height before 222, and I had to make 222 in order to get the bronze medal. Or I guess I had to hope that Donald Thomas, the guy who finished 4th, missed on 222. Because if he had made that, then all 4 of us would have gone on to jump at 225, which we were doing, and the 2 of us missed. And the reason I got the bronze medal was on countback. So the only thought in my head was, okay, if Donald misses, then I get the bronze medal. So at that point, I was just like, okay, please, Donald, I really don't, I'm usually not somebody who, thinks about all these things, or I'm never somebody who believes in pulling somebody else's leg down. But this was that one time I was like, Donald, please miss this bar. And that's what happened. And at that moment, I didn't even know what I was going through. The emotions were really high. So that was something that really, that sums up my experience, I guess.
You are a great story. I mean, in every sense. And now also see, you've got a corporate job. So what's next, Tejaswin?
So like you said, sir, we're talking about mental health. We're talking about pushing boundaries. So for me, I've always been somebody who's always believed that, and this is something I genuinely believe, that everybody's definition of success should be different. And it should be different because, like we always hear the quote that, you can't judge a fish's, or I guess a monkey's ability by how far it can swim or whatnot. So for me, the definition of success is very different. And yes, I want to medal. I want to, go through the same pattern, win that Commonwealth Games medal, Asian Games medal, gold, silver, bronze, all that sort of thing. But at the same time, I want to do that when I have a balanced life. I want to have a balanced life. I have other goals apart from sport. And there's something, to do with my ego as well, I guess. If somebody tells me it's not possible, that's what I want to do. I want to try and see if it's possible. I have no shame in admitting that, okay, maybe 2 years or 3 years down the line, I might be really troubled and I might not be able to manage my job as well as do sports, and I'd have to maybe stop working or, just focus on sports. But that's okay. I failed on my terms. I failed because I tried. So for me, it's really important to try first. And that's the reason up till this point, I was a student athlete. I was studying. I did my bachelor's degree. I did 2 bachelors and I completed a master's while simultaneously competing in the high jump event, and was finally was able to win a medal at the Commonwealth Games as well. So that's something that I've done. Nobody said that it's very easy to do, and if it were easy, everybody would do it. So that's the only reason I tried to do it. And then now, even my own coach, he told me that, okay, why do you even want to do this job? You're at a good point. Why don't you just focus on sports for some years? And it's going to be really tough. The only thing I told him was, well, yes, you say it's tough. Everybody that I've ever talked to, including my mom, everybody says it's tough. But I just want to give it a shot. If I fail, cool. But if I don't, maybe that might, become a source of an inspiration or an example that I can set for somebody else. So that's the only reason I started working, and I really enjoy it. I'm able to make those adjustments. I'm able to find time to train as well as work full time.
NCAA, Kansas, the education system, the academic system in the US, winning from there. Unfortunately, in India, sport and education still don't go hand in hand. And whether you're in Canada, whether in the UK, whether in the US, having taught there, having been part of the system, both of us know that, right? So how important is this connect between education and sport, Tejaswin? Because you are a part of that system. This is hugely important for India. That's my final question.
So to answer that question, I guess, I might be privileged or I might be lucky, but in the end, I had this opportunity to come here and compete with some of the best athletes while also in an environment where I can focus on my academics. Or I guess I was forced to focus on my academics because the system is such that if you fall below a certain grade point average, you're kicked out of the school, irrespective of you can be the stud athlete or the star athlete, but you'll still not be able to feature in that roster because you don't have the prerequisite grade point average to compete. It just opens up a lot of opportunities for you. You've been with cricket for so long. I've been a big fan of yours, journalism and the way you conduct those interviews. And you've talked to Rahul Dravid a lot of times, and he's somebody who I really look up to. And he's somebody who's been able to achieve what he's achieved in the field of sports, but he's somebody who's a thinking athlete. And when you talk to somebody, you can differentiate between somebody who's a thinking athlete versus somebody who's, like you just talked about, you just mentioned that, who get there on talent or, the conventional way of success. For me, I realized early on that, okay, well, maybe the conventional way is not working for me because I had my certain points of stagnation over the course of my, 6, 7 years, 8, 10 years that I've been doing the sport. I didn't have that same trajectory of junior nationals, senior nationals, Asian Games, Commonwealth Games, Olympics, and I didn't have that same graph because I had the push from my family to focus on academics or something or the other. So my journey is not very conventional. And that being said, I realized that I had to embrace this journey, and for me to be that thinking athlete, be that different athlete, I had to choose a path that's different for me. And that's why maybe through some blessing, I was able to get to the US and get into this environment where it suits somebody like me who's wanting to do both. That's been really, really eye-opening, and at the same time it's been very humbling that there's just so much to do, and there's so many good people, so many great athletes that you meet someone like Mondo Duplantis at the bar, you meet someone like Sydney McLaughlin, you see her running around warming up at the track. Like, for a lot of our athletes, I guess they probably wouldn't be able to see them until they go to the Olympic Stadium and watch, or I guess at the World Championships and watch them compete live. But in my case, I saw them at a bar in a college drinking beer. So that's something that's, very unique in my experience. And I was just blessed to have this experience. And I'm just grateful for that.
I'll leave it at that because you're living your life. And that's the best thing possible. I've done, hundreds and hundreds of interviews. This was different. And it gave me a lot of pleasure to talk to you. Loved it. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you joining me.
On a side note, when I learned that I was having this opportunity to chat with you, I was really excited because there's this one, I've read some of your books, I've seen some of the, the shows that you host, some of the shows that you've anchored. But then I guess this one show that I really loved was, I wanted to share this. I think it was the Cricket Conclave for one of these news channels, and it was where you had a panel of eminent cricketers from India and Pakistan, and I really loved listening to those stories. And especially the legendary Abdul Qadir. I heard some of the stories because I started off as a leg spinner, or I guess I started off as a medium pacer, and I went on to do some leg spin bowling. But just hearing his stories and the way it was going on between all these cricketers who were sitting there and they were having these on and off, and the stories that they were talking about, that just showed that different side of that if you're a sports person, it's not just about the sport that you do on the field, but that you have a life outside the field, and these guys really enjoy their life apart from being the cricketers or the pressure that they carry, or whatever. For example, the 11 gods and the billion people. So the way they carry themselves, or I guess the fact that they have a life apart from sport, that's something that's really important to be highlighted. And I guess in today's world, we see so much.
I'll finish with what Sachin told me when we started out the autobiography. He said his father had said to him that sport is for 20 years. You will live for 70, 80. For the rest of the 50, be a good human being, and that's how people will remember you. Simple. So sport is just a part of life. It is an important part, but nonetheless, there's a far bigger world out there. And that's what you and I mean, what are we at the end of the day, Tejaswin? You are the story and I'm the storyteller, right? I'm here to chronicle that story so that there are future Tejaswin Shankars who break the bar, who become unconventional. That's what brings you and me together in this world. And that's the bond. That will forever be the bond between you and me. Thank you very much. Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Stay well. And hopefully physically we'll have a chance to chat in the near future.
Definitely. Thank you. Have a great.
Thanks a lot.